Hi everyone, welcome back to the Wild Chat. Today we're down a member. Dylan couldn't make it today, but me and Adam are ready to talk football.
Dylan, you want to say hi?
I haven't been sure to study. Hi.
Yeah, so Dylan couldn't make it today. But we're excited to talk Nebraska football. We have the Selly Scoop on with us to kind of just have a little chat. Um, in history, Northwestern has been we weren't so hot last season, but we still managed a win against Nebraska and Ireland at our last matchup. So that was kind of cool, but then the rest of the season tanked, so it didn't actually end up meaning anything. But we're so excited to have you guys on. How are you guys feeling about the game on your end? I know Ireland was a long way away, and you guys are not having too bad of a season so far.
Yeah, I think I speak for all Husker fans. After a win, you feel a lot better, especially winning a road game, because Scott Frost never seemed to win any road games in the Big Ten, at least. So after beating Illinois, we're feeling more confident, but hopefully, it doesn't get stomped out as it has for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would be feeling great, but then Northwestern goes out there and they beat Minnesota, who we've already lost to this year. I mean, it's a lot of coin flips in the West. So right now, the hopes are, we're up right now because we're coming off a bye week. We can't lose in a bye week, and we won the week before. I mean, we're on an up and up right now, and the down soon to come. So I'm not really sure how we're going to be feeling after this next week, but we're living week by week, and I hate the dreadful Mondays.
I mean, it sounds like overall the vibes are good. I guess, biggest thing is Matt Rhule, head coach. Obviously a lot of hype coming to the season. He's been really successful in college, kind of turning around programs. Obviously, the NFL gig didn't quite work out for him. And I guess before the season, seeing Matt Rhule go back to college football was something that I was kind of had my eye on. How have you kind of graded his first year in charge so far?
Well, me and Jason at least have been kind of all over the place. I was kind of I dove headfirst when Scott Frost joined. And so because of that, I got burned severely. I'm trying not to do that again. So I want him to prove it to me. And beating Illinois is starting to bring that up because, it's our first win against a Big Ten West foe since Iowa last year. But I mean, I think we went 2 years without winning a West matchup, which it shouldn't really happen that often. So, I'm positive on Matt Rhule, but after the Michigan game, I was definitely down on him. So it's definitely a week to week thing.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster. I'm definitely not bought in. B-Saul, he's 100% bought in. He was bought in from day one. I got to say, I like the recruiting aspect that he's bringing in, and we're bringing in a lot of guys, even going after Dylan Raiola once Matt Rhule signed to be the coach here. Finally, we had targeted a guy who's a legacy to the Huskers. We weren't even, acknowledging the kid. He's the number one quarterback, number one player coming out of high school. And he's not even getting an offer from Nebraska. I think that was ridiculous from Scott Frost. But I was on Scott Frost's side to where the offense could score. He was an offensive guru, but it was the defense that was the downfall. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. But this is what I like about Matt Rhule is the defense around. I mean, they swarm to the football. They actually tackle in practice. Apparently, it came out a report that Scott Frost wasn't even having the guys tackle in practice. I mean, how can you tackle to the game if you're not going to tackle in practice? So a lot of coming up, I guess, from Matt Rhule now, especially you caught me after we just beat Illinois. So now I'm living up right now.
No,
How do you guys?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was gonna ask. I just saw something interesting about Matt Rhule today. He said that the only thing that he cares about right now is beating Northwestern, that he doesn't want to look into the future or think about anything else. Do you guys kind of agree with that sentiment, or is there anything else that you think he should be thinking about going into the game on Saturday?
I think that that's fair, but I think that it's also really hard to do as a player because when you look at Nebraska's next 3 games, it's 3 teams without a winning record, so they're all winnable. But I'm sure those 3 teams are looking at Nebraska and the team we've been for the last 6 years, thinking the same thing with us. So it is hard to look ahead and say we should, beat the teams with losing records and let's focus on Maryland or Wisconsin coming up.
Yeah, I could say you can focus on, Northwestern going forward and, week to week now, because you don't have a Michigan later in the schedule. You don't have a team where it's like, this is our showcase and let's see what we can do. And obviously, I mean, we saw that we just got blown off at home on our own home field. But yeah, I think it's a week to week thing. But if you can't make a bowl game, I don't want to see you as the coach. I mean, I don't think it's tough to win 6 games, especially in the West of today, the Wild Wild West. Anyone I feel like can win 6 games.
And how do you guys feel about your coach? Is he an interim guy or is he like your official guy?
Still the interim. And
Okay.
there's kind of been calls for him to that interim label to be removed. I mean, Ashleigh's been pretty big on that side.
Yeah, for sure. I'm on the David Braun hype train. I really like him. I think he's done. I mean, it may be a little bit premature of me. I don't really care. I think he's done enough. He's done, or at least the team this season has done way better than we really thought they were going to do. And sure, he's a defensive coordinator, and our defense has had some holes, especially when it comes to stopping the run game for any team. I mean, we even saw that against Howard, which is a team we probably should have beaten by a mile and ended up only winning by 3. So there are some things that look a little rocky, sure, but I don't think anyone really expected us to win a conference game at all. And the fact that we've done that and are now a 3-3 team when no one thought we would be 3-3, I personally think that's enough. I know I'm one of the ones that are someone that's more on the hype train than other people. I've definitely gotten some flack for publishing those opinions, but yeah, I'm super hyped for David Braun. I don't know about Adam. You might be a little more conservative than I am.
I might be a little bit more conservative, but I think that he has everything in front of him. And as of now, if the season ended today, I mean, he's no longer an interim head coach. He's the head coach. I'd like to see what he does for the rest of Big Ten play. But the win over Minnesota was huge. And then beating the teams that we were supposed to beat in UTEP and Howard. It doesn't matter how you win. A win's a win, especially in, Northwestern football where anything can happen. We've kind of seen the unpredictability of things over the past really 2 years of just like horrendous Northwestern play. And then obviously all the things that happen off the field. But I think if you go out and beat, I don't know if it's Nebraska next week. I don't know if it's Illinois at the end of the year. Maybe it's Iowa in a game that is looking to be a very ugly game of just horrendous football, or even Purdue. They come to Evanston later in the year. There are a lot of winnable games on the schedule. As you said, the Big Ten West is really open and anything's possible. So you win one more game, you win 2 more games. I think he gets the job done, and I think he's the head coach next year.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And like you just said, like the West is all about winnable games here and there. Like Iowa knocked out Wisconsin this week, so they think, they're the king sitting at the top, but that could easily change this week because we all know Iowa can't score. So you score 2 touchdowns, you have a chance to beat them. And actually Nebraska struggles to score on offense as well. So we're playing this season a lot like Iowa, which means it's going to be a scrappy, ugly game, possibly a bunch of turnovers. So we'll see.
So I guess, how are you guys feeling with Ben Bryant going down hurt? Is he going to be playing this week, or what's the word around campus?
So at the end of the Howard game, which was last week, Coach Braun was pretty adamant that he was going to be fine for this week. Today, though, in the presser, apparently Bryant's status is still up in the air, which is a little concerning, given the fact that the play with Ben Bryant compared to Brendan Sullivan is a very different offensive attack. And I think with Brendan Sullivan, you almost are reliant on his ability to run the football. I mean, I've been saying this for the past year and a half, but when you have Brendan Sullivan in at quarterback, it's like you're a high school like football team. You have that like D1 lacrosse player that you're just thrown in at quarterback and you just like give him the ball and tell him to like do whatever he can. It's kind of how it feels like with Brendan Sullivan. It's like every first down's almost a miracle. And I don't know if the game against Howard, where if you look at the stats, played pretty well, had I think 3 total touchdowns. You're gonna look at the stats, you're gonna be like, oh, this is a pretty solid game. But I just don't know if that's representative, or it might have been 2 total touchdowns. It's not really representative of who he is as a player, just against a team like Howard. So against the Big Ten opponent, I just think that balance is gonna be really important. If it's Sullivan, if it's Ben Bryant, I mean, then you have to talk about, is Ben Bryant 100%? So I think Brendan Sullivan might be the best bet this weekend, just as he's the most healthy. Northwestern can definitely win a game with him. It's just the pieces around him offensively need to kind of step up a little.
Yeah, for sure. I think Yeah, I think Ben Bryant and Brendan Sullivan are kind of on different levels with their strengths. And I think it's just worked out for Ben Bryant better. And I think it's been better for our team. He's much more of a passer. I think he has a better ability to read the fields. And I think Brendan Sullivan isn't as developed in that yet, because you see Brendan Sullivan, he'll like scan the field. And if he doesn't see something immediately, he'll just run it. And sometimes it works. I mean, it worked a couple times last weekend or 2 weekends ago, which was great and really fun to see. But it's like against a Big Ten opponent, is that going to work? And I don't know if that will necessarily be the case, but I also don't want to see Ben Bryant in there if he's not 100%, because I think there are other games on our schedule, that we really could win, but we would need to be at our best. And I think, I don't want to ruin Ben Bryant's chances of coming back for the rest of the season. So I think it's like wait and see kind of basis, but I'm hoping he's healthy enough. I mean, that would be awesome. I think that's our best chance of winning, but yeah, I don't want to see him out there if he's not, 100% back and ready to go.
Yeah, I would honestly say that's kind of like how you guys were describing Sullivan to Bryant is kind of like Haarberg to Sims. I mean, if Jeff throws a pick, Sims is in there. He's going to, sit in the pocket and he's going to throw it. He does not look to run at all. But if Haarberg's back there and he doesn't see somebody he likes or is not open, he's going to take off running. And he seems to be getting more positive yards. And that has also helped us in the turnover game to where, I mean, we would have 4 turnovers in both the games Jeff Sims played, to where once he went out of the game, I mean, then we played NIU and Louisiana Tech, to where they were, I mean, teams you should beat. But it showed that, Haarberg was going to hold on to the ball better than Sims at that point, even though I still think that Sims is the better quarterback.
And I think that's a very dangerous thing for this, especially this Northwestern defense. A guy like Haarberg, who, I actually think Northwestern's pass defense is pretty solid. Like, I think a guy like Garnett Hollis Jr. I would not be surprised if he's playing on an NFL team in a couple of years. He's just got that NFL build to him, and Northwestern's had a kind of a good history of getting some good corners. I mean, we had Cam Mitchell go in the NFL draft last year, but I think that a guy that can really run the football and not force throws and just trust his legs like Haarberg, that presents a real challenge to this Northwestern defense that just hasn't stopped anything on the ground. Doesn't matter if it's a running back, doesn't matter if it's a quarterback. There's zero ability to stop the run in any capacity. So I think that really presents a little bit of a scary aspect for this Nebraska team from a Northwestern perspective.
That's interesting that you say that, because for me, watching Nebraska, if Haarberg doesn't run the football, our offense doesn't do anything. Is the way it's been since we lost our top 2 running backs. So, Anthony Grant's the guy now, but he has fumbling issues, and I think he fumbled against Illinois again. So, again, it's not fixed. It's what made him 3rd on the depth chart opening the season. So it'll be interesting. And Northwestern has always been Nebraska's Achilles heel. Every time Nebraska thinks they're taking a step in the right direction, Northwestern seems to beat them in those seasons. And, it's pretty competitive. It seems Nebraska wins one year and Northwestern wins the next one. So we'll see what happens.
Pretty sure the last time we went to Nebraska, though, it was quite ugly. It was, yeah. I don't really want to talk about that one.
Well, we don't want to talk about Ireland. So.
Funny you bring Ireland up, actually, or I guess we brought up Ireland earlier. But I've got a kind of a rotating background to my computer screens where all these different sports highlights. So I'm a big South Florida sports fan, so it's got a lot of the Miami Heat in the early 2010s, and the Dolphins making the playoffs a couple of years ago and last year. And then it's also got the nice little Evan Hull run from the Nebraska game last year. And it was actually just on before the Zoom call. So I felt like it was kind of fitting in that regard.
Surprised you don't have the onside kick coming out of half.
Yeah, I should.
Did either of you guys make the trip to Ireland?
I did not.
I was actually on vacation at the time, but I was in France on vacation, so it was actually good for the time difference. So I was watching the game at night, which was kind of nice. Yeah, it just felt right.
No, unfortunately, I didn't make the trip, but I had hope after watching that game. So that was kind of cool for a little bit until it went away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought about going, and then I looked at like the ticket packages they were selling. I was like, oh no, thank you.
But a
Based
lot,
on the
a lot of
price.
a lot of Nebraska fans made that trip. I mean, you guys have one of the best fan bases in all of college football. And I remember watching the game, and it was just a sea of red. It was just like one little streak of purple. But if we're turning our attention to this game, and you're from a Nebraska perspective, what's the number one thing that has to go right? Who's the player that you're looking out to that's like make or break?
For me, it still just has to be Haarberg. It's don't turn the ball over is my number one thing. I think Nebraska, if they don't turn the ball over, I mean, we're looking at probably only having one loss with Michigan. So
Yeah, I guess my side doesn't even come down to a player. It comes down to our offensive coordinator and the play calling that Satterfield makes. I mean, you got to let Haarberg use his legs. And I don't know why they didn't call plays that they're calling for Haarberg now for Jeff Sims, because Jeff Sims is a better athlete. He has a more talented arm, but it's not really going to help you if he's throwing it to the other team. So I think it comes down to Satterfield's play calling, but I do agree that, Haarberg, once he gets the legs going, he is a tough guy to stop it. 6'4", 215, that he can run over some people, especially in college football.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I gotta. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think that's Northwestern's or the key to us. If we were to beat you guys, I think we'd have to stop that run game. We'd have to stop Haarberg, and it's just gonna be whether or not we can do that, whether or not our defense can get it together and just stop the run game that we've been having so much trouble with the entire season. I mean, it's fluctuated, yes, a bit, but I think Adam's right. Our pass defense isn't the issue here. It's more of our run defense and seeing what we can do to stop players from making big runs. I mean, I know against Duke, like the average yardage was like, I want to say like 6.2 a run.
It was ugly.
It was like really high. So I think that's going to be our key. If we beat you guys this weekend, which would be cool. I'm a little biased, but
Yeah, I think. Hold on, I lost my train of thought. What you said something right before.
defense game.
Oh, Duke. Yeah. That's a legit loss because Duke is a lot better than what people expected. And when they knocked out Clemson, I can't remember if that was before you guys or right after you guys, like Duke's a legit team. So they're contending in the ACC. So, if Duke runs all over you, Nebraska's caliber for what we're doing is not quite at where Duke is. And it sounds weird saying, but it's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think it matters really who comes out of this game winning it, but I think both teams will still have the opportunity with the games left to make a bowl game, and I think that is the right step in the right direction for both these teams. Now, both these programs have new head coaches. One came because they wanted to move on. One came from an unfortunate, thing to come out, but it could be a positive outlook on the season if both teams come out of the season with a bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, like, what does success look like for Nebraska this year? Is it making a bowl game? Is anything short of that a failure?
To me personally, yes. I would say yes, because we've gone 6 years now as a drought, and before that, I think we made it in every single season since 2000, and before that, I mean, I don't know if we had a losing record before that, except for maybe one under Bill Callahan in like 2004.
Yeah, I actually look at this game, and I think even if you lose this game or if we lose this game, you still have a shot at making a bowl game because both of our schedules play out that way. I think if you guys, and I'll tell you too, coming into the season, I was the only person on our Sully Scoop panel who gave Northwestern a shot at playing in a bowl game. Just so you know, I said the opportunity was there for 6. And I called that win over Minnesota before it happened.
That's only half of his hot take. Why don't you fill him in on the rest?
The rest of the hot take is that PJ Fleck's getting fired. And I think he will, because I don't see them winning very many more games.
Before the end of the year, though. Don't leave that part out.
All right. Well,
I like that. I think that's a good call. I mean,
very valid.
As a Northwestern fan, I don't know how to feel about getting to 6 wins. I mean, there's definitely a path, right? I mean, we mentioned Nebraska. We mentioned Purdue, Illinois. I mean, Maryland too. I know Dylan's a big proponent of the 9-3 train, which is
We're
absolutely
cool.
okay. Dude, go study. But it's just it's a good place to be at the half point of the season where the season's not lost. You can still accomplish everything that you wanted to, and especially in the Big Ten West where anything's open. And it's just absurd. It's just absurd. And the Big Ten's only going to get more competitive in the future. And I think this is an opportunity where teams like Northwestern or Nebraska, who've struggled over the past couple of years, this is really an opportunity to add some mojo to their program.
Yeah, well, going on through the rest of the year, Northwestern takes Wisconsin, who's got a new coach, and you don't really know. They're still trying to find their identity. I mean, they're trying to change from a running team to now they want to be a pass-happy West Coast offense. And then you got Purdue with a whole new offense and a new coach as well, to where you don't really know what you're going to get from those two. And then Illinois is a coin flip. I mean, the Huskers beat Illinois, so that should tell you all you need to know. And Maryland lost to Illinois at that point. I think there's a lot of games, even if you look at Iowa and expect a loss, even if for a Husker fan, if I'm looking at Iowa right now as a Husker fan, I'm thinking it's a loss as well. I think you could still get to 6 wins, not counting that as a win.
Yeah, I agree. And I still think that the door is still open for Northwestern or Nebraska to even win the West. I mean, because as Jay Saul mentioned, nobody's a juggernaut in the West. And again, Iowa may think that the juggernaut, but they're not. A 4-win Nebraska team knocked them out. So that tells you all you need to know about Iowa. And last year, they had the best defense in the Big Ten. This year, they're a step back from that. They're a great defense, not the best in the Big Ten. So I would say they're a little worse than last year.
Well, did their offense improve?
Not at all.
No.
And Wisconsin. Oh, and Wisconsin seems to be the sexy pick for everybody. Everybody wants to say Wisconsin's going to do this, going to do that. But, they had a coaching change as well. And even when they didn't do a coaching change, they weren't winning the West. So that's my thoughts for Wisconsin.
It's just such a crazy division because, I mean, legitimately, any team has an argument to say that they can win, and every other team can say, no, this is why you're not going to win. And I think that's kind of the fun nature of it. There's really no other kind of division or part of college football that's like it. It's just madness. Like Iowa, as you mentioned, like they think that they're at the top, but they can't score points. And Wisconsin probably should be the best, but they're having problems trying to figure themselves out. And then a team like Northwestern, who was really picked to win 1 or 2 games this year, they already have a Big Ten win. They're at 3 wins. Nebraska, new head coach. There's all these new pieces going around. And I think it makes for a really engaging and interesting 6 weeks of the season left. So I guess that's just kind of where I'm at as a Northwestern fan, just because hey, I didn't really think we were going to be in this position, so let's just make the most of it.
Yeah, the fact that we're in the conversation at all, it's a little bit mind-boggling to me, because at the beginning of the season, I was like, oh yeah, if we got 1 win, I'd be ecstatic, right? And now that we're talking about...
You thought we were going to win 4.
I thought I was going to win 4, but I would have been happy with 1. I had 4 wins at the beginning of the season. So I think, the fact that we can get... I mean, I guess at the beginning of the season, that was lofty, right? No one really thought that we were going to win 4 games. And even at Big Banter, no one had us winning more than 2. So the fact that we're here now feels like a little bit of a win just on that regard. But I mean, it's super exciting. Like Adam said, that all these teams are in the conversation that we never really expected. It's making the season a lot more fun than I had originally thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be another season of complete pain and strife and sadness. But it's not so far. There's still time though, so I can't really say anything. But I kind of like that aspect.
Why don't we turn our attention a little bit to this game? Score predictions. What are we feeling?
All right, well, I'll start this one off because Vegas opened up and decided Nebraska's a 10-point favorite. And that shocks me because we struggled to score 10. So that's kind of what shocks me about that. I have a feeling like we're in store for a barn burner type of game. So I'm going to pick Nebraska to win, but it's going to be ugly. And I think it's going to be something weird, like 15-12, something just odd.
I don't know if our kicker can make 4 field goals, but that's great.
Maybe it's 2 missed extra points then.
We have the top holder in the country, though.
Anyway,
hang your hat on that.
15, 12. That's that. I feel like every score prediction we do, it's always like it's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a weird one. But I haven't heard anything quite that strange.
Yeah, I think honestly, I got the Huskers. They got to come out on top in this. I mean, Vegas has given them a 10.5, I think it was the last time I checked it too. So I think the Huskers cover the points, but I think it's 14-3. I think the Huskers defense doesn't break down, especially if Bryant doesn't play, that our rushing defense, sorry, is better and can stop the run. They haven't let over 100 yards this season except for against Michigan, but Michigan's going to run down everyone's throat. So I think the Huskers, they control the clock, they run the ball, and they come out with a win.
Okay. I've thought on this for a little bit, and I feel like just to make it interesting, I'm gonna have Northwestern taking it. In my mind, I'm hoping Ben Bryant can. I'm thinking I was thinking along the lines of Ben Bryant. Now that David Braun has come out and said that he might not play, it makes it a little bit different. But I'm still gonna take the W. I'm thinking 17-14. I'm thinking it's like last minute field goal or first drive field goal that makes the difference. And even if Brendan Sullivan does play, I can see that rushing touchdown, maybe right at the beginning of the game at least, but I think he's got at least that in him. But yeah, I think we could pull it off either way with a little bit of luck, some nice defensive plays. I think we could do it. That's my prediction.
I'm more of a say a realist. I don't think Northwestern gets the win here. I think that going to Nebraska is very different to either playing Nebraska in a neutral site or in Evanston. I think those are three completely different things. And I think going into Nebraska is one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten, especially if you're a Northwestern. I think that it'll be an ugly game. I think it'll be close at half, but second half, I think Nebraska gets a couple key turnovers maybe, or maybe gets, some clutch fourth down stops or scores a crazy, 64-yard rushing touchdown. Something weird's going to happen. And I think they pull away. I think Nebraska wins 24-10, I think. I think it's gonna be probably 10-10 or 10-7, something like that at halftime. And I think Nebraska's really gonna find a way to get things done in the second half.
Yeah, but we know it's going to be weird, and we know it's going to be competitive. And the thing about Northwestern is, even though you guys went through all the turmoil, you still play that physical brand of Big Ten football, because you wouldn't beat Minnesota if you didn't play that kind of brand of football. And we competed with Minnesota and ended up giving it away in the second half. So Nebraska plays the same physicality. And so that's the kind of game that I expect. It's going to be tough, and it gets weird. I mean, I was at the game in Lincoln when we needed a Hail Mary pass to beat you guys. And we also went to the game, I think it was Scott Frost's first season in Evanston, where Nebraska blew like a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, and then it went to overtime or double overtime, and Northwestern ended up winning. So, yeah, there's been a lot of those.
It's honestly one of my favorite stadiums to go to is Ryan Field. But how do you guys, this is a side note, how are you guys looking? Are you guys optimistic? You looking forward to it? The new stadium that's in the talks of being built.
I actually think a couple different things, because in a way there's some positives, right? New stadium. I mean, Ryan Field's like 100 years old. It's like basically falling apart. But there's going to be less seating, which if you're a Northwestern, it kind of makes sense given the fact that I think our biggest turnout, I think, was the Penn State game, 26,000, which is kind of depressing. But attendance has been down this year, which I don't think is to be. I mean, I think it's to be expected, honestly, with everything that happened this offseason. So I think the smaller seating capacity makes sense. But at the same time, it's not embracing what Big Ten football is, like these big, loud environments. I don't know if Northwestern can really ever be that. But also downsizing doesn't give you the option for that if an Ohio State comes in or a Michigan comes in. I mean, last year for that Ohio State game, the stadium was absolutely packed. I mean, sure, it was packed with Ohio State fans, but that was a lot of fun. I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on it. I think it's good from a Northwestern recruiting perspective of this is a brand new stadium. This is kind of like we have state of the art stuff here. But I don't know. I kind of like Ryan Field.
I'm a little bit with Adam. I go back and forth on it a little bit. I'm kind of excited for it though. I think definitely less capacity. I like that idea personally because it's very sad to see on TV. So, I mean, entire sections of the stadium will be completely empty. So I'm hoping they're lessening the capacity by 12,000, I believe. So I'm hoping that will make the stadium at least look a little bit better, because it is very sad looking at times. Maybe the student section will look a little bit better as well, because right now we just have one like little section that we fill up some of the time. I say most of the
solid.
Yeah, I say solid. I mean, not for the whole game, but for
Yeah.
at least a quarter, it'll be pretty. Our section will be full, but it's still only one section of that huge stadium. So I'm kind of excited to see a smaller stadium. I mean, Ryan Field is kind of a fortress, is super old. It's kind of got a charm to it that I'll be sad to see go, but I don't know. I think it could be exciting. There's a lot of pushback locally on the stadium, so they're still trying to figure all that out and the concert thing, but they did get the go-ahead to build it, so.
But no concerts.
But no concerts, at least not yet. But they still, news is changing every day with that kind of thing. But I'm excited for it, but I think I'll miss that Ryan Field fortressy, old, decrepit kind of charm.
Yeah, and we go, because we live in Illinois, so we go like every year they, at least for the past few years, they switched off between playing at Northwestern and Illinois. So we'd always go to those home games. And so Northwestern fans are always so welcoming. You know, we tailgate in the parking lot right outside, and it's always a great time. So we love going there.
And the best is sitting in the season ticket holders' seats.
Yeah.
Those are some
With
those
the
are some comfy ones. Yep, with the
Yeah.
cushions. Those are always the best seats.
Yep.
Yeah. But also, Lincoln is also doing an upgrade to their stadium, and so they're talking about reducing the capacity there too. And I think it's still undetermined how much, but they're talking about losing like 20,000 seats with the upgrade.
That's interesting.
So,
it'll drop.
yeah,
us
it's
from,
supposed
like,
to.
It'll drop us
supposed
from
to
like
bring
90 to 70 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's supposed to bring in like better seating, a better, experience when you go, more fan friendly and easier to get around, easier access and everything. But I don't believe it has been voted on yet or, passed through, because I think there is a lot of pushback that, I mean, they're selling out every game. Why are you going to take away the seats type of deal? But
They're
a lot of the
barely selling
talks,
out.
yeah, a lot of the talks is, they're selling out because all these boosters are throwing money at it. So they're not really, getting all the capacity in there. But I mean, it's hard to get the capacity in there when you haven't made a bowl game in six years, and that's not what the fans in Lincoln are used to.
Yeah, for sure. I think I feel like that kind of wraps things up with our little Northwestern Nebraska talk. Thank you so much, guys, for coming and talking to us. We really appreciate it, and we had a really fun time. I love talking football, so I always have a fun time. We just want to shout out Big Banter as well, at Big Banter Sports, for making this whole little collab happen, which is super exciting. And make sure to check us out at the WildChat on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Where can we find the Sully Scoop?
Yeah, so you can find the Sully Scoop at Sully_Scoop on Twitter. Then we're on, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts and everything. We're on TikTok as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. And thank you to everyone who listened. And we'll see you after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for having us on here.
Go Big Red.
Go Cats.